Studying in Canada is always an interesting subject, but getting an admission into a school or a college and getting a study permit approval are entirely two different things. So my today's video is all about why this may just be the best time to apply for your study permit. Stay tuned for more. Hi, I'm Kubeir. Welcome to my channel. If you're here for the first time, then do consider subscribing because this channel is all about Canada, Canadian immigration, processes, news and updates. We do upload a lot of videos which can be a very important resource for you in your Canadian immigration journey. Subject of today's video is studying in Canada and study permit applications and why this is the best time. So let's jump right in. Well, basically there are two types of students who usually come to Canada for studying. First are those students who are coming to Canada for higher education. They're coming to Canada after they have finished their schools or they wish to pursue further or higher studies in Canada after they have finished their graduate programs. The second set of students are what we usually also refer to as mature students. Now these are the students who mainly would like to come to Canada among other reasons to secure their permanent resident status in Canada. I'm not saying that the first category of students do not wish to get their permanent residence, but their primary focus is what we refer to as study abroad or studying in a country which can give them a better exposure. But the second set of students, also the mature students, are primarily here to pursue their permanent resident status. My today's video is going to concentrate more about the study permit applications for the mature students. So that's the reason why you're here. I suggest you watch till the end. Quickly reviewing what is the process of a study permit application. So well, basically either you can go to a study consultant or an education consultant in your home country, or you can do your own research. By doing this research, you will identify a program or a college where you would like to pursue your studies. After you have identified the college, you will then write to them or you will contact them and apply for your admission. For this admission, you may require your language tests as well. But depending on the college or program, that may not be always necessary. If your application for admission is accepted, the college will issue you an admission letter, whereby then you will be required to pay your tuition fees, which could be for one semester or for at least 1 year upfront. After you have paid your fees, that's when you will apply for your study permit application. If you get the approval of your study permit application, hooray! You can now come to Canada and once you come to Canada, you will receive your study permit and you can start your study program and your journey or your first step towards your permanent residence. Well, just so that you know, the fee for the programs in Canada can range anywhere from 8 to 10,000 right up to 24,000-25,000 for a postgraduate program, and for an MBA specialized program it could even go up to 125,000 Canadian dollars for the length of the program. When calculating for your financial viability to come and study in Canada, you must also take into account your living expenses, which as per the requirement from Canadian immigration is about $10,000 per month for one single applicant, but it is more in the range of $15,000 per year that you should calculate as your living expenses in addition to your tuition fees. Now let me come to the main point for this video today. Why do I feel that this may be the best time for you to apply for study permit? Most people who apply for study permits are always plagued with this fear whether their study permits will get approved or not, and primarily because there has been a big gap in their education. For example, they finished their school or their graduate program in their 20s, now they're 30, 35, 38, and there's a big gap of maybe 10, 12, 15 years in their education, and they're wondering if they will get an approval. So with this concern of increasing age and the gap in education, this is always a worry for people whether they will get an approval or not. But mind you, as far as Canadian immigration is concerned, there is no requirement or restriction on age. You could be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and still be eligible to apply for a study permit application. As far as the gap in studies is concerned, that is also not a criteria or a restriction from Canadian immigration. Yes, the gap could be an issue with certain colleges, certain universities and certain programs. A lot of colleges and universities may not accept a gap of more than 5 years in education, but that's all right. There are several other colleges and universities who do not have a problem with the gap, and as long as you make a good case as a mature student, you should be fine. This COVID pandemic situation has created unplanned, unexpected changes, problems, challenges for all the education institutes in Canada. The summer intake was deferred to fall. The fall intakes are now being deferred to January or the winter intake as they call it. A lot of universities have already declared that they will be conducting online courses instead of classroom. A lot of students have already deferred their plans to study to next year. Many of them don't wish to study in Canada anymore, or rather do not wish to study abroad anymore, because let's say maybe there are financial challenges. And due to the lockdown, the agents and education consultants, their offices were closed, so they were not able to enroll a lot of new students, which they would have done during this period of time. So all in all, the colleges, universities, the education institutes in Canada have been affected severely. They have been badly affected with these shutdowns and close downs. A rough estimate says a lot of Canadian colleges make almost 50% of their revenue from international students, and the education business in Canada exceeds $6 billion a year. Not only that, the students by itself contribute largely to the Canadian economy, and contributing nearly $27 billion to the Canadian economy. Now with colleges shut down, teachers being laid off, budgets being cut, austerity measures being applied, you can understand what kind of an effect this would have made on the colleges. Therefore, colleges and universities are eager to get all these students back into their roles, and therefore I feel there is going to be a lot of pressure from this industry on the politicians, on the immigration department, to ensure there is a facilitation on the visa process. Now, it's a known fact that the immigration refuses or rejects almost 30 to 40% of the study permit applications from countries like India, Pakistan, and in some countries even more. But with onset of this pandemic situation and with the admission numbers dropping, I'm sure there is going to be a lot of pressure on them, whether it's from the politicians or from the education institutes. So with all these budget cuts, austerity measures in place, the number of admissions dropping, the colleges are going to be under extreme pressure, and this pressure is going to shift on the immigration department so that the number of refusals are reduced, so that immigration is more considerate when assessing and processing these applications. So this is the main reason why I feel this is the best time to apply for a study permit application, because there will be an increased flexibility, there will be an increased consideration in accepting more study permit applications during this period of time. Not only that, due to these lockdowns and shutdowns, the colleges are willing to accept Duolingo or IELTS indicator as the alternative language test. The colleges are also willing to accept copies of your transcripts. They are also willing to accept incomplete applications in order to approve your admission. And similarly with IRCC or Canadian Immigration, they have already announced that they will accept incomplete applications, or they may even be flexible with the kind of documentation you submit. Because of these shutdowns, it is quite obvious that you will not be able to provide all the documentation that they might otherwise require. Well, before you jump on to making the decision, let me also talk about the pitfalls that you could face by coming to Canada as a student during this period of time. First and foremost, colleges have already announced that a large part of their program is going to be conducted online. So this may not necessarily be your in-classroom studies that you may have been expecting, and neither would you get a full-fledged learning experience in a classroom environment or in a university environment that you would otherwise expect under normal circumstances. Due to a lot of students having deferred their programs from the summer to the fall intake, and now a lot of students are deferring their programs from the fall to the winter intake, well, if the classes do resume in winter, you can expect a larger student to teacher ratio. So basically, if earlier one classroom had say 30 students, if that classroom can physically accommodate let's say 70 students or 80 students, you will find that happen, so your classrooms could be crowded. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people depend on part-time jobs or jobs to help them to meet their expenses during the time they're studying, because as you all know, students are allowed to work part-time off campus for 20 hours a week, and in some cases that might be 40 hours a week if they are into any of the essential occupations. But due to this ongoing pandemic scenario, you may not be able to find jobs easily, or there may be other restrictions or requirements around the job that you may do. So do not expect to rely on these part-time jobs to meet your expenses. Be aware that you may need funds out of your pocket to meet your living expenses. And now on the slightly good side, CIC has already confirmed that you can complete up to 50% of your program online even without coming to Canada. So for example, if your study permit is approved and you are still in your home country, you can actually start your study program and complete up to maximum of 50% of your course online, and that will still be acceptable for your eligibility for the postgraduate work permit. Now, postgraduate work permit is the reason why most of you may be looking to come to Canada anyways. And for the remainder of this video, I'm going to cover two more points. Firstly, what are the more important aspects when you should look at when applying for a study permit application? And number two, and how do you go about choosing the most beneficial program or college or province for your study permit? If you're still watching the video, I hope you're finding this of value to you. Do give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. What are the most important factors you should consider when you are applying for a study permit? Primarily two. One, your financial resources, and number two, your statement of purpose or the reason why you wish to come to Canada. Generally, it is understood that an immigration officer spends no more than 4 to 5 minutes on a study permit application. Now, that is excruciating very less amount of time for you to be able to portray a good story or a good picture to an immigration officer so that you can convince the officer that you are there in Canada as a bona fide student, that you do not intend to flout any rules and regulations, and that you will comply with the immigration laws. Out of these factors, finances is understandable because if you do not have enough financial resources to pay for your tuition fees and to take care of your living expenses, then obviously the visa officer is not going to look at your application favorably. So when deciding to apply for a study permit, make sure you have adequate resources available in your bank account or alternative proof of funds to show where this money will come to you or how your education in Canada will be supported. The second factor, also referred to as SOP or statement of purpose, or what some people call as letter of explanation, is very, very critical, or at least I feel it's very critical. A good SOP will start with an introduction. The introduction will include a background about you, your past academic achievements. It will then come down to why do you wish to study in Canada? Why do you wish to study this program? Why this particular college? Why is it that you're choosing to come to Canada to study in this college? Were you not able to find the similar education or similar program in your home country? You will then summarize your career goals and your ambitions. You will address any gaps in your education. You will also mention about your existing work experience. You will sort of make a very tight script and you tie this whole story down to show a complete picture as to what makes you a bona fide student and why Canada is a good option for you in your study journey. In this SOP, you will also talk about your finances, what finances are available to you, how you will meet your expenses, and any ties that you have to your home country, which establishes the fact that you will return back to your home country after you have finished your studies. Now comes the important aspect as to how do you choose which program or which college do you wish to study in. Now, first of all, you need to establish your purpose of study. Are you doing this only to immigrate to Canada, or you're also looking to enrich your learning experience, or you wish to also add a specific licensing or certification which may then further add to your resume when you're job searching? Do you already have specific colleges, programs, or universities in mind? All these will be a deciding factor when you choose which college or program it's going to be. But if immigrating to Canada is your primary objective, then I would suggest to reverse engineer the process. First, identify which province would you like to settle down in. Does this province offer any PNP programs that have a special benefit? Does this province give any benefit to the students, or does it have any provisions for people who have been working in that province? For example, Quebec. If you complete certain study programs in Quebec, you may be eligible to apply for permanent residency directly after completion of that studies. Same thing goes with British Columbia. There are certain programs in British Columbia. If you are to complete them, you will be eligible to apply for their nomination directly after completing those programs. Ontario also has a master's and a PhD stream, whereby if you have studied a master's program in Ontario, you may be eligible to apply for nomination under that program. While these immigration streams are available, they are also very competitive and may not be possible for everyone to apply under these streams. So when making a decision, do consider the Atlantic provinces, the province of Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Islands, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador. These are great provinces to study in. The cost of studies is less, the cost of living expenses is less. They do offer some great programs, and they do support people who have lived, studied, worked in their provinces when it comes to their immigration programs. Similarly, Manitoba and Saskatchewan also give additional points for people who have studied or worked in their province. And Alberta, through their Alberta Opportunity Stream, also provides a pathway to immigration. So while I have listed for you different provinces and what they may offer to you in terms of the provincial nominee program, it is not like one size fits all. So you will need to individually research, go figure as to which province makes more sense for you, where you would like to settle down, where you have the best chance of getting through a provincial nominee program, and where the cost of living and cost of studying also makes a big difference. Don't let anybody tell you that age is a problem or the gap in studies is a problem. It is not. So age is not a problem. Your gap in studies is not a problem. The only thing that stops you is you. I hope I was able to give you the information you're looking for today. Do like the video. If you thought this was of any value, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.